The air is static, hanging over the river like a held breath. And the silence is heavy, a physical weight that presses against your chest as the train wheels screech against the iron tracks. The first thing you notice is not what is there, it is what is missing. There are no advertisements screaming for your attention, no billboards selling soda or insurance, no neon signs flicker in the distance, no internet signal reaches out to your pocket. Your phone is now nothing more than a glowing brick of glass and metal. You have just crossed the bridge from Dandong, China, into a world that should not exist in the 21st century. You are not just entering a country, you are stepping onto a stage where every person is an actor, every street is a set, and you, the visitor, are the most watched person in the theater. The stage of the eternal city. Welcome to a place that calls itself the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. But let's be honest, most of the world knows it by a different name, the Hermit Kingdom. It sounds like something out of a fantasy novel, doesn't it? It lures you in with a promise that is hard to resist, the chance to see the impossible. It is like stepping into a time capsule that was sealed shut way back during the Cold War and never opened again. But the thing nobody tells you before you book your ticket is that once you enter, the landscape does not just watch you. It feels like it is judging you. If you make a mistake here, they do not just send you home with a warning. They can silence your story forever. This is a place where disappearing is not a magic trick performed on a stage. It is an actual government policy. Before you even reach the big capital city, the train ride from the border town of Sinuiju sets the mood for the whole trip. You sit there by the window watching endless miles of rice fields roll by. You see farmers working the land with their bare hands or using oxen to pull plows, just like people did hundreds of years ago. They stop and stare blankly at the train as it passes, their faces unreadable. There are no cars on the dirt roads, only people walking. They are always walking, carrying heavy bundles on their backs that look like they weigh a ton. It looks like a scene from a history book, totally frozen in time, framed by the window of a train that is moving toward a city of the future. But as the train slowed down, I realized that the strangest part of the trip hadn't even started yet. Our journey truly begins when we pull into the station at Pyongyang. Imagine a city designed not for regular people to live in, but to show off pure power. From a distance, it looks like a futuristic dream world. You see skyscrapers painted in pastel colors like mint green and baby blue, and wide sweeping streets that are so big you could probably land an airplane on them. But as you get closer, you realize the trick. The streets are totally empty. A massive highway with 10 lanes stretches toward the horizon, yet the only thing moving on it is your tour bus and maybe one lone cyclist miles away, pedaling slowly against the wind. This is the model city, a fortress built to show the world a kind of perfection that doesn't actually exist. It felt like walking onto a movie set where the director forgot to hire any actors. When you finally step off the train, the smell of burning coal and dirty pavement hits you right in the face. But that isn't the scariest part. The first thing you really feel is the weight of the portraits. Everywhere you look, on the front of the station, on every building, in every classroom, and pinned to the shirt of every single adult you meet, the faces of the great leader and the dear leader are staring back at you. They are not just photos, they are like the sun around which this entire world spins. Your guides, who will never leave your side for a single second, tell you that the city was rebuilt from ashes after the American attackers tried to destroy the nation's spirit. They speak of the leaders not as politicians, but as parents who are protecting their children from a dangerous world. The rules are drilled into your head from the very start. No walking around by yourself, no taking photos without asking, and definitely no folding or crumpling anything that has a picture of the leaders on it. One wrong move, and the friendly mask falls off. You can feel the tension in the air, and you know that one mistake could change everything. To really understand how much they worship these leaders, your first stop is a place that makes your neck hurt just looking at it. The Tower of the Hushe Idea. Standing at 558 feet tall, this stone needle is the tallest of its kind in the whole world. It even towers over the Washington Monument in America. It is made of exactly 25,550 blocks, one for every single day of Kim Il-sung's life up to his 70th birthday. The math is perfect, and that precision is actually kind of terrifying. As you stand at the bottom, looking up at the stone torch that glows red at night, you feel tiny. That is the whole point. Everything here is built to make you feel like a grain of sand next to a giant mountain. You take the elevator to the top, a cramped ride where the operator stands in total silence like a statue. When the doors open, the view is breathtaking. You see the Taedong River twisting through the city and the massive, unmoving face of a city that never blinks. You see the endless blocks of grey apartments where the loyal citizens live, and you start to wonder what life is really like behind those curtains. The wind whips coldly at the top, carrying the faint sounds of patriotic songs from speakers far below, reminding you that even up here, you are never truly alone. But the tower is just a symbol. To understand the heart of this group, you have to go to the place where the leaders physically loom over you. You arrive at the Mansadeh Grand Monument. This is where the rules become real. Your guide's voice drops to a whisper, and they stand up straighter. You are told to line up. You are told to keep your hands out of your pockets. You are told to bow. Two giant bronze statues, 66 feet tall, tower over you, Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il. They are smiling, looking like kind father figures made of tons of metal, but their eyes seem to follow every movement you make, and just when I thought I was following all the rules, my guide grabbed my arm. The silence here is absolute. You hear the wind whipping against the massive flags, the distant sound of a crow, and that is it. No traffic, no chatting, no laughter. To put it simply, this is the most holy ground in the nation. You are warned, do not cut off the statues in your photos. If you cut off their feet or their heads in a picture, it is considered a crime against the country, a direct insult to the leaders. One disrespectful move, one funny photo, and your trip and your safety changes instantly. This is the strange puzzle of North Korea. It is beautiful, in a clean, scary way, but it is a beauty with sharp teeth. It is a place where even a piece of paper with the leader's face on it cannot be crumpled, or you might find yourself in serious trouble. Newlyweds arrive in traditional clothes to pay respects, laying flowers and bowing deeply. Their joy is mixed with a required respect that feels heavy. It made me wonder if they were bowing because they wanted to, or because they were afraid of what would happen if they didn't. When the sun begins to set, the city hides its secrets underground. We go down into a hidden world that also works as a defense against the end of the world. We descend into the Pyongyang metro. This is not just a subway, it is a nuclear bunker. You are 360 feet below the ground, so deep that the air feels different. It is cooler, feels heavy, and smells like damp earth. The escalator ride takes nearly 4 minutes of just going down into the dark. As you go down, the modern world fades away, replaced by the flicker of chandeliers and the glow of large wall paintings. The speakers play patriotic songs, a constant soundtrack to the ride. Each station looks like a palace with marble pillars and high-arched ceilings. In Puhung Station, the walls are covered in pictures made of small colored stones showing workers in golden fields, smiling as they work hard. There are no ads for smartphones or movies here. There are only newspapers pinned to boards where travelers stand in silence, reading the government's version of the news. It is the deepest metro on Earth, a hidden maze designed to keep people alive while the world above burns. The locals move like shadows, rarely looking you in the eye. They know that in this city, even the walls have ears, and saying the wrong word to a foreigner could get them sent away to a work camp forever. You watch them, and they watch you. It feels like two different species separated by an invisible glass wall. The chandeliers sparkle like stars, lighting up scenes of heroic work and eternal loyalty. But as the train arrived, I saw something in a passenger's eyes that I will never forget. As we come up from the depths and move through the city, we pass the Arch of Triumph. It looks familiar, like the famous one in Paris, but here is the catch. It is bigger. They made it bigger on purpose. It stands 197 feet high, marking the spot where Kim Il-sung gave a famous speech in 1945. Nearby, the Cholima statue shows a mythical winged horse. In Korean legend, this horse could travel 1,000 rai, about 300 miles, in a single day. In Pyongyang, it is a symbol for the speed of the revolution, urging the people to work harder and faster without resting. But as you look at the towering monuments and the massive Kim Il-sung Square, where 100,000 people can march in perfect timing, their footsteps sounding like thunder, you start to wonder what is really going on behind the curtain. The Grand People's Study House looms over the square, a library with 30 million books. It is supposed to encourage learning, but as you walk its quiet halls, you realize every book and every word is checked and filtered. There is no outside information allowed, no forbidden thoughts. The computers you see are connected only to the Kwangmyong, a closed internal network that looks like the internet but contains only what the state wants you to see. Students read approved books in silence, the huge reading rooms echoing with the scratch of pens. It felt less like a library and more like a factory for thoughts. Before we leave the center of the capital to see the softer side of the regime, we must visit Mangyongdae. This is the native house, the birthplace of Kim Il-sung. It is a collection of small huts with straw roofs that look remarkably well preserved. Your guides tell you stories of his humble beginnings, how he grew up with a heart for the people, but there is a strange feeling here. Everything looks too perfect. The grass is cut with scissors, the well water is said to have healing powers. It is like a holy site for their religion. People come here to cry and pay respects, treating the site like a church. School children recite poems, their young voices carrying across the peaceful grounds. It was beautiful, sure, but it felt like a stage play where everyone knew their lines a little too well. But just a few miles away, the reality of modern Pyongyang breaks through. You see the Pyongyang Sci-Tech Complex, an enormous building shaped like an atom. It looks like something out of a sci-fi movie, powered by solar panels and filled with thousands of computers. But when you look closer, you see that the internet the students are using is totally disconnected from the rest of the human race. It is a digital cage, a way to learn technical skills without learning about the world outside. Enthusiastic young minds show off gadgets and experiments, all under banners proclaiming that they don't need help from anyone else. To keep the citizens, or at least the loyal ones, happy, the state has built socialist fairylands. We visit the Munsu Water Park. It is a weird sight. Colorful slides, indoor wave pools, and a beer hall where the rich people of Pyongyang come to relax. There is even a life-sized wax figure of Kim Jong-il standing in the lobby wearing a summer suit, smiling nicely at the swimmers. People actually bow to the wax figure before they go for a swim. It is a jarring mix of fun and worship. Laughter echoes from the pools, and families splash under artificial waves. It is a rare glimpse of real joy in a world that follows a script. But even here, you can't help but wonder if the laughter is real or just another part of the show. Then there is the Korean People's Army Circus. This is not your average circus. There are no lions or elephants. Instead, you have world-class acrobats performing death-defying stunts that seem to ignore gravity. But there is always a hidden message. The skits often involve heroic soldiers defeating clumsy enemies dressed as American soldiers. Every flip, every jump, every smile is a performance for the state. Even in their free time, the people are being taught that they are part of a military machine, that their bodies belong to the revolution. The crowd cheers loudly, the energy electric, mixing entertainment with teaching so smoothly you barely notice it. As we prepare to leave the capital, we visit the Revolutionary Martyrs Cemetery. It sits on a hill looking over the city, filled with hundreds of bronze busts of men and women who died fighting. Each bust is a work of art. staring out with strong determination. From here, Pyongyang looks peaceful. It looks like a city of the future. But the wind carrying the scent of coal and cold stone reminds you of the truth. Pine trees frame the view, a sad memorial to sacrifice. This city is a masterpiece of control. Every tree was planted with permission. Every person you see was chosen to live here based on their loyalty, their social class. If your loyalty shakes, if a family member runs away, you are cast out into the countryside where the electricity dies and the hunger begins. The capital is the mask. It is the model that hides the scars of a nation divided by a wound that never heals, the line of fire and the ghosts of the past. So imagine this, we are finally leaving Pyongyang. You might think the scary part is over because we are leaving the big city, but you would be wrong. It actually gets worse. As the bus turns south, that feeling of being watched, it doesn't go away. It gets stronger. We get on this thing called the reunification highway. Sounds nice, right? Like a road that brings people together. But let me tell you, this is a road built for ghosts. It is huge, 6 lanes wide. But here is the creepy part. There are no cars. None. It's just us, our guides, and this giant slab of cracked concrete. The bus is shaking and bouncing because the road is full of holes. It feels like the road is groaning under our wheels. It is a huge difference from the perfect streets in the capital city. But then you see them. And this is where my heart started beating a little faster. Every few miles, you see these giant concrete arches over the road. If you were just a regular tourist, you might look at them and think, oh, look, a pretty decoration, or maybe a monument. But here is the thing nobody tells you until it's too late. Those aren't decorations. They are traps. They are giant blocks of concrete held up by thin supports. They are set up with explosives. If a war ever starts, the army will blow them up. Boom! Thousands of tons of concrete will fall onto the road and block anyone from getting through. It is a constant reminder that the war here isn't really over. It's just paused. This whole land is holding its breath, just waiting for the fire to start again. We keep driving. We pass checkpoints where young soldiers are standing guard. They look so young. With thin faces and big rifles on their shoulders, they just stare at our bus. They are guarding an empty road against an enemy they can't even see. We are heading to a place called Panmunjom. You might know it as the DMZ, the Demilitarized Zone. This is the border. It is the most guarded border on the entire planet. It's like a scar that cuts the country right in half. As soon as we get there, the feeling changes. The air feels heavy. You can feel the stress in your teeth. Even our guides act differently. In the city, they were cracking jokes and smiling. Here, they freeze up. They stop smiling. Their eyes are looking everywhere. Then they hand you a piece of paper. You have to sign it. It basically says, if you get shot or if something bad happens, it is not our fault. That wakes you up pretty fast, doesn't it? We walk out onto some gravel. There are these bright blue buildings. To my right, there is a North Korean soldier. He isn't just standing there, he is ready to fight. His fists are clenched. He has dark glasses on so you can't see his eyes. He is facing south. Then, I look about 30 feet away. There is a South Korean soldier. He is standing in the exact same way, fists clenched, glasses on, facing north. They don't blink, they don't move, they look like statues. The silence is terrifying. You want to sneeze, but you are afraid to make a sound. And here is the craziest part. You can hear birds singing. The birds are flying around, totally happy. They have no idea they are flying over a field full of mines that could blow them up. We step inside one of the blue huts. There is a simple wooden table in the middle. Right in the center of the table, there is a microphone cable. That cable is the border. I'm serious. If you walk to the other side of the table, you are technically in South Korea. For a few seconds I stood there. I was a border crosser. I was in a weird middle ground where one wrong step could mean I'd disappear from history. Outside I saw a bridge. They call it the Bridge of No Return. Back after the war, they used it to trade prisoners. The rule was, once you walked across that bridge, you could never ever go back. It gives you chills just looking at it. Every step you take here feels heavy. You can feel the ghosts of the millions of people who died here in the 1950s. You can almost hear the echoes of the bad things that happened here. Like in 1976, 2 American officers were eliminated just because they tried to trim a tree. That's how tense it is. A tree trimming turned into a murder. It reminds you that this Cold War could turn hot in a second. Okay, let's go back to the capital, but we are staying on the topic of fighting. We go to the river, and there is a ship docked there. But it's not a North Korean ship, it's an American ship. It's the USS Pueblo. Back in 1968, the North Korean Navy captured this ship. If you ask the Americans, they say it was captured illegally. If you ask the North Koreans, they say it was a great victory over the bad guys. The ship looks a little old and rusty, but they keep it floating to show off. We get on the ship, the wood creaks under my feet. A lady soldier is our guide. She is wearing a sharp green uniform. She starts talking, and wow, she is intense. She speaks with so much fire. She points to holes in the side of the ship and says, "Look, bullet holes." They painted the holes red so you can't miss them. She shows us letters that the American crew wrote while they were captured. She tells us a story about a tiny country standing up to a giant superpower, but as I looked around at the old spy machines and the tiny rooms where the sailors were locked up, I realized something. This isn't just a ship, it's a trophy. It is the only US Navy ship that is currently being held prisoner by another country. The North Koreans use it to tell their people, "See, we can beat anyone." It's a floating mind game. Right near the ship is the War Museum. But calling it a museum is too small of a word. It looks like a giant fortress. Outside, there is a graveyard of American weapons. I walked past crushed fighter jets and rusty tanks with white stars on them. It felt like walking through a garden of destruction. Then we went inside. The size of this place is shocking. We walked into this room that had a 360-degree painting of a battle, but the floor rotates. The lights change. You hear explosions booming in the room. There are wax figures of soldiers screaming. It really hits you in the gut. It is designed to make your heart race. My guide started explaining the war. She said the North didn't start it. She said they were saving the country from invaders. In this building, history isn't just facts and dates. It's like a religion. Every rusty helmet is like a holy object. I saw models of American soldiers surrendering. They were painted to look scary and weak at the same time. The whole point of this place is to teach people that the enemy is evil. If the museum was intense, this next place was on a whole other level. We went to the Kumsusan Palace of the Sun. This is where the bodies of the leaders, Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il, are kept. Before we could even see the building, we had to fix our clothes. No jeans, no t-shirts. You have to look like you are going to a funeral, because, well, you are. We got on these moving walkways. They are flat escalators. They go for nearly a mile. And they move slow. I mean really slow. We just stood there moving at a snail's pace, looking at photos of the leaders on the walls. Sad, slow music was playing from speakers hidden somewhere. Then things got weird. We had to go through air showers. We stood in a special booth, and jets of air blasted us to blow off any dust. We had to be perfectly clean before we could see the leaders. Finally, we walked into the great hall. The floor was made of white marble. It was so shiny I could see my own scared face in it, and there they were. In 2 different rooms, the bodies of the leaders were lying under red glass. The lights were low. The light shined right on their faces. We had to bow at their feet, then bow at their left side, then the right side. We weren't allowed to bow at the head. The The silence was so thick it felt like it was pressing on my chest. Their skin looked like wax. Their hair was perfect. They are called eternal leaders, and in this room, it feels like time has totally stopped. Next door, we saw their stuff. Their personal train cars were there, looking brand new. Their luxury boats, even a golf cart. We saw medals from countries that don't even exist anymore, like East Germany. It was a huge display of money and gold. It was such a huge difference from the empty streets and the poor countryside we saw earlier. I left that palace feeling cold. And not just because of the air conditioning. I felt cold because I had just seen how much people worship these leaders. It was unlike anything I had ever seen. We needed to clear our heads after all that heavy stuff. So, we drove to a city called Kaesong. This place is different. A long time ago, it used to be part of South Korea. Because of that, it didn't get destroyed during the war. It is one of the few places where you can see the old Korea. We walked through the old town. It is like a maze of small houses with black curved roofs. We went to a museum that used to be a school way back in the year 992. Here, for a minute, the propaganda stopped. We just looked at history. We saw old pottery and maps of the stars. We saw a bridge where a famous scholar was eliminated a long time ago because he was loyal to his king. Then we climbed a hill to see the tombs of King Kongmin. These are two giant grassy mounds where a king and his queen are buried. Giant stone statues of sheep and tigers are standing guard. For a second, looking at the green hills, I forgot about the missiles. I forgot about the eternal leaders. I saw a Korea that has been around for thousands of years. It was beautiful and quiet, but then I looked at the horizon. In the distance, I could see tall towers. It was the Kaesong Industrial Complex. This was a place where North and South Korea used to work together, but now it's empty, it's silent. The dream of the country coming back together is right there. You can see it, but it feels a million miles away. Our last stop for this part of the trip was back in the city. We went to the monument to party founding. It's this huge stone structure. It has three giant hands holding things. One hand holds a hammer for the worker, one holds a sickle for the farmer, and the third one holds a calligraphy brush for the writer or artist. It is huge. As I stood in the middle of it, I realized something important. In most places, artists and writers do whatever they want. But here, the brush is part of the statue. It means even the writers work for the state. There is no art just for fun. There is no history just for facts. Everything, the old tombs, the captured spy ship, the preserved bodies, it's all part of one big story they are telling. So here we are. You have seen the line where the world ends at the DMZ. You have seen the faces of the men who never died. You have felt the shaking of a war that is still waiting to happen. But hold on, the weirdest part of the trip is still coming. To find the real secrets of this hermit kingdom, we have to leave the cities. We have to go to the mountains. We have to go to the places where the gods are supposed to live. Get ready because the next part is going to blow your mind. The secret mountains and silent hotels of North Korea. We have walked through the strange, dreamlike streets of Pyongyang, where everything looks like a movie set made of concrete and pastel paint. We have stood right on the edge of the DMZ, that scary line where two huge armies stare at each other across a strip of land that is technically at war. We have even bowed in front of the preserved bodies of the old leaders, holding our breath in the heavy sanitized air of the mausoleum. But if you want to see the real soul of this place, the part that was here long before the bronze statues, the loudspeakers, and the strict rules, you have to get out of the city. We are leaving the grey monolithic buildings behind. We are leaving the traffic ladies with their robotic precision and the subway stations that double as nuclear bunkers. We are heading deep into the green heart of the country, into a landscape that feels ancient and indifferent to the politics of men. We are going into mountains that are so beautiful they almost feel like a trap waiting to snap shut. This is a journey into the wild, but in North Korea, the wild is never just wild. It is a stage, a temple, and a fortress all at once. Imagine a long, sharp row of grey rocks rising up from the east coast. tearing at the sky. The tops of these mountains poke through the eternal coastal fog, like the teeth of a sleeping dragon, jagged and unforgiving. This is Kumgangsan, which means the Diamond Mountain. The highest point, Pirobong, reaches way up into the atmosphere, over 5,000 feet high. It is a towering world of old twisting pine trees, waterfalls so clear they look like liquid glass, and rocks that look like they were carved by giants a long time ago. For hundreds of years, long before the peninsula was divided by ideology and razor wire, poets and painters in Korea loved this place more than anywhere else. It was the spiritual anchor of the artist. They used to say that you haven't really lived your life until you have seen the Diamond Mountain. The obsession with this range is so deep that they gave it different names for every season because it changes so much, shedding its skin like a living creature. In the spring, when the azaleas and magnolias are blooming and the mist clings to the valleys, they call it the Mountain of Flowers, Kumgangsan. In the summer, when the leaves are thick and green and the humidity rises, the clouds catch on the peaks, and it earns the name Pongresan, the place where spirits dwell. In the fall, when the maples turn the slopes into a burning sea of bright red and orange, it gets the fiery name Pungaksan. And in the winter, when the vegetation dies back and it is just bare, sharp gray granite covered in ice and snow, they call it Kegolsan, the Skeleton Mountain. Seeing the Skeleton Mountain is a haunting experience. The bones of the earth are exposed, stripping away all softness to reveal the hard, unyielding core of the land. This mountain range is huge. People used to say it had 12,000 peaks. That might be a poetic exaggeration, a number meant to signify infinity rather than a cartographic fact. But standing at the base, looking up at the endless serrated ridge, there are definitely a lot of them. The area is split up into 3 parts, each with its own personality. There is the inner Kumgang, which is full of deep, sheltered valleys and old temples that hide in the shadows of the peaks. This is the feminine side of the mountain, soft and contemplative. Then there is the outer Kumgang, which has those sharp, dramatic rock shapes that look like pillars holding up the heavens. This is the masculine side, aggressive and bold. And then there is the sea Kumgang, a surreal coastal stretch where the cliffs do not end at the beach but drop right into the ocean, creating beautiful lagoons and stone pillars rising from the salt water. It has trails that wind past giant stone towers and pools of water that act like mirrors for the sky. You can see waterfalls like the Koryong Falls crashing down into green pools, the sound of the water drowning out everything else. The writing on the wall. But here is the thing nobody tells you before you go. You expect nature to be a break from the propaganda. You expect that once you leave the city squares with their billboards and murals, you will find a neutral space. But in North Korea, there is no neutral space. Even when you are out in the wild, miles away from the nearest town, you are never truly alone. Picture yourself hiking through these woods. This area used to be a special zone where tourists from South Korea could visit. A rare experiment in cooperation called the Diamond Mountain Tourist Region. They came by the busload, looking at the north with curiosity and sadness. But that stopped years ago after a tragic shooting of a South Korean tourist who wandered off limits. Now the heavy metal fences that separated the tourists from the locals are rusting. The hotels built by the South are dark. It is quiet. The air smells sweet, like pine needles, damp rocks, and ozone. You can hear the roar of a waterfall echoing off the canyon walls. For a moment, it feels like a paradise that time forgot. Then you look up. Carved right into the side of a massive 50-foot cliff are huge red letters. Some of them are as big as a house. They occupy the face of the mountain like a tattoo on a beautiful face. They aren't old poems or religious writings from the Buddhist monks who used to meditate here. They are political slogans. They are carved deep into the granite, so deep that they will last for 10,000 years. They say things about the invincible will of the leaders, or tell you to be loyal to the revolution. They proclaim, "Long live the general," in jagged, violent calligraphy. In North Korea, nature isn't allowed to just be nature. It has to be part of the story the government wants to tell. Every big mountain peak, every beautiful view, and every serene valley has been drafted into the army. You realize that the landscape itself has been colonized by the ideology. It is a jarring sight. The bright red paint clashing with the subtle greens and greys of the forest. It reminds you that there is nowhere to hide. You keep walking and pass the Nine Dragons waterfall. The water falls into a deep green pool that people say looks like 9 dragons coming down from heaven to drink. It is stunning. The mist hits your face, cold and refreshing. But then your guide, who never leaves your side, taps you on the shoulder. He doesn't want to talk about the geology or the dragons. He tells you that the leader once stood exactly where you are standing right now. He wasn't just looking at the view, though. The guide says he gave on-the-spot guidance to the trees, the rocks, and the water. This is a recurring theme. You are told stories about how the leaders visited and told people how to make the trails better, or exactly where to build a pavilion to get the best view, or how to save the plants. It is all told like a story of how kind and smart they were, possessing a supernatural knowledge of everything from botany to trail maintenance. It is a weird mix of amazing nature and total mind control. The beauty of the mountain is mixed together with the rules of the state. And you can't pull them apart? You look at a 1,000-year-old tree, and the plaque in front of it tells you what Kim Il-sung said about it in 1974. The history of the land has been rewritten to start with the regime. The hikes can be tough. There are stone steps cut right into steep cliffs and narrow hanging bridges that sway in the wind. The paths might make you feel a little dizzy if you look down into the gorge below. In the past, buses and cruise ships brought visitors here. They stayed in big hotels that are mostly empty now. Today, not many people can go. The paths are overgrown in places. They whisper stories of a country that is split in two, but still united by how much they love this diamond mountain. You walk past the empty resorts, looking like a post-apocalyptic movie where humanity vanished. Leaving the buildings to wait for guests who never arrive, we travel further north, hours of driving along bumpy concrete highways that cut through endless rice paddies. We are heading to a place called Myeongsan. The name means mountain of mysterious fragrance. It is even taller and more rugged than the last one. And it is famous for having lots of different birds, old forests, and a deep spiritual history. The air here is different. It is thicker, perfumed by juniper, magnolia, and the damp musk of untouched soil. The trails here lead to places like the Poyeon Temple. This is a calm, peaceful group of buildings that has been here since the 11th century. It sits in a valley that smells like wildflowers and pine trees, which is how the mountain got its name. The temple complex is a masterpiece of symmetry and color. It has fancy roofs that curve up at the corners like the wings of a bird. Painted in dazzling shades of green, red, and blue. It has survived wars and trouble for hundreds of years. During the Korean War, it was bombed, but it has been meticulously rebuilt. It is a quiet reminder of what Korea was like a long time ago, before the country was divided, before the slogans and the loudspeakers. Monks with shaved heads and gray robes walk through the courtyards. They chant. hitting wooden blocks in a rhythm that feels like a heartbeat. But even here you wonder, in a country that officially discourages religion, is this a real temple or is it a museum piece kept alive for the tourists? The monks ignore you, focusing on the flowers or the sweeping of the dust, and you are left to guess. The hiking paths here are nice. Some are gentle walks by a stream where the water is so clear you can count the pebbles on the bottom. Others are steep climbs that reward you with a view of mountain ridges fading into the mist. Layer after layer of blue and grey mountains stretching to the horizon. But the real attraction here isn't the temple or the birds, it isn't the hiking, it is something hidden deep inside the rock, and it is honestly one of the weirdest things you will ever see in your life. Tucked into the side of the mountain is the International Friendship Exhibition. It sounds friendly, like a community center or a gallery, but when you approach it, it looks like a giant fortress from a spy movie. Imagine two huge buildings with traditional Korean roofs. But no windows, not a single one. They look sealed tight. They have heavy bronze doors that look like they guard a bank vault or a nuclear silo. Standing in front of them are soldiers with silver-plated Kalashnikovs, standing statue still. Inside, there is a maze of hallways that go on for miles, dug deep underneath the mountain. They blasted out the rock to create a climate-controlled bunker. The air conditioning is always on to keep everything perfectly preserved, giving the air a crisp artificial chill that makes you shiver. This place was opened in 1978 and they have kept making it bigger. It is a storehouse for over 250,000 gifts given to the Kim family by leaders, diplomats, and organizations from other countries. It is a physical manifestation of legitimacy. Before you go in, you have to put cloth covers over your shoes so you don't dirty the shiny marble floors. You have to check your camera and phone. No photos allowed. It is super quiet inside. The only sound is the hum of the air conditioner and the soft shuffling of shoe covers. The lighting is dim and dramatic. The rooms are organized by which part of the world the gift came from and which leader it was for. There is a whole hall for the grandfather, Kim Il-sung, another for the father, Kim Jong-il, and new sections for the current leader, Kim Jong-un. The stuff inside is wild. It is a garage sale of history's dictators and confused diplomats. You see a bulletproof limousine given by Joseph Stalin, looking heavy and menacing. There is a luxury train car from Mao Zedong, complete with plush velvet seats. There are carvings made of ivory from Africa, intricate and delicate. There are gold-plated guns, fancy vases, and gem-encrusted swords. Then there are the strange things. There is a tray made from a stuffed crocodile holding glasses, a gift from a leader in Latin America. There is a bearskin rug with the head still attached, staring at you with glass eyes. There is even a basketball signed by Michael Jordan that was a gift from an American official during a rare moment of diplomacy. There are VCRs from the 1980s that were once top-of-the-line technology, now looking like ancient bricks. The guides talk very seriously about these things. They don't see the kitsch. They stop before a tea set or a laptop and explain its significance with hushed reverence. They say these gifts prove that the whole world loves and respects their leaders. They explain that the sheer volume of gifts shows that the Kim family is the center of global politics. But as you walk past room after room of swords and TVs and wax figures, you start to feel the real reason this place exists. It is not for the world. The world doesn't know most of this is here. It is for the domestic audience. It is a mountain of treasures designed to convince the North Korean people that they are the center of the universe. It makes it look like the whole world is sending tribute to their leaders because they are so important. It is a huge ego trip carved into a mountain, a masterpiece of propaganda hiding in a beautiful forest. You walk for hours, and you only see a fraction of it. It is exhausting, overwhelming, and deeply bizarre. Just a few hours away, through winding mountain roads that cross high passes, there is another project that shows just how bold this country can be. It is the Masikryong Ski Resort. This place was built incredibly fast, in just 10 months. The state mobilized the army to build it. Soldiers built it by hand, carrying rocks and mixing cement in freezing temperatures. They worked so hard that Masikryong speed became a new saying in the country for working incredibly fast to please the leader. The resort sits on a pass called Masikryong, or Horse Resting Pass. The facility is surprisingly modern. It has 11 ski runs, from easy ones for beginners to hard ones for experts that look genuinely steep. There is a luxury hotel with swimming pools, saunas, an ice rink, and modern ski lifts that hum quietly as they ascend the mountain. When you arrive, it feels like you have stepped into a hallucination. You are in North Korea, a country known for shortages and austerity, but here you are standing in a village that looks like it was airlifted from the Swiss Alps or Aspen. There are wooden lodges with cozy fireplaces. There is perfect white snow, groomed by expensive machines. But then you notice something creepy. It is usually empty. You might be the only person on the chairlift, looking down at snow that no one has touched. You glide up the mountain in silence, dangling over the pristine white slopes. There are no lines at the lift. There is no chatter in the lodge. A ticket here costs more than a normal person in North Korea earns in a whole year. So it isn't really for the people. The locals you do see are likely handpicked to be there, or they are the elites from Pyongyang who can afford the unimaginable luxury of leisure. It is a symbol. It is a way for the country to say, look, we can be fancy like the West. We are a civilized modern nation with winter sports. It is an act of defiance against sanctions. The leader wanted this place to bring in tourists and make the country look good, but mostly it sits there like a ghost town with the wind howling through the empty ski lifts and the staff standing around in crisp uniforms with nothing to do. It is a beautiful, expensive stage set waiting for actors who never show up. The sacred volcano. Our journey pushes us further, to the absolute edge of the country, right on the border with China. We are going to Paektusan, or Mount Paektu. This is a volcano, and it is the highest point in all of Korea. This isn't just a mountain, it is the mountain. It is sacred to all Korean people, both north and south. Ancient myth says that the founder of the first Korean kingdom, a god king named Tangun, was born here thousands of years ago. It is the spiritual birthplace of the Korean race. But in the north, they have added a new layer to the myth. The government says that Kim Jong-il was born here in a secret guerrilla camp while his father was fighting the Japanese. They say that when he was born, a double rainbow appeared and a new star shone in the sky. Historians say he was actually born in Russia, but here, facts are flexible things. This makes Paektu the holy mountain of the revolution. The journey up is intense. You take a funicular railway or drive up a steep winding road that cuts through a lunar landscape of pumice and volcanic rock. As you get higher, the trees disappear, the wind picks up, it screams across the open slopes. Climbing the final stretch is brutal. The wind is freezing cold and blows really hard, sometimes strong enough to knock you over. The air is thin because you are so high up, but when you get to the edge of the crater, everything goes silent. You stand at the edge of the world, gasping for air. The climb to the rim of Mount Paektu is a battle against the elements, a physical struggle that leaves your lungs burning and your legs trembling. The wind up here doesn't just blow, it screams. It tears across the barren, pumice-covered slopes with the force of a hurricane, stripping away the warmth of your layers and stinging your exposed skin. The air is thin, oxygen-deprived and biting cold. But then you reach the precipice, and the violence of the wind seems to vanish into the visual shock of what lies below. You look down, and the world falls away into the abyss of Heaven Lake, or Chonji. It is a sight that defies the logic of the landscape. Nestled deep inside the caldera of the sleeping volcano lies a vast, impossible eye of blue. It is one of the deepest alpine lakes on the planet, a reservoir of water so cold and pure it feels prehistoric. The surface is an unbroken sheet of dark blue glass, still and heavy, reflecting the racing clouds above with perfect, eerie fidelity. Surrounding this silent water are jagged peaks that rise like the teeth of a predatory beast or a crown of thorns, carved from black basalt and grey rhyolite. They stand as silent sentinels, guarding the water from the outside world. The contrast strikes you in the chest, the chaotic screaming wind on the rim versus the absolute deathly stillness of the water below. It feels spiritual, almost terrifyingly holy. Standing here, straddling the razor-thin border between North Korea and China, you feel small. To your left is the vast expanse of China. To your right, the hidden, hermetic kingdom of North Korea stretches out into the mist. It feels like a fortress nation, not just politically, but geologically. The earth itself has raised these walls to keep the secrets in, but in North Korea, even the sacred geology is conscripted into the narrative. You cannot just admire the volcano, you must worship the story attached to it. We descend from the crater into the forests at the base, where the air is thick with the scent of larch and spruce. Here, the state has built a shrine to its own mythology. We walk through the secret camps, a series of reconstructed log cabins hidden in the dense woods. The guides, their voices trembling with practiced emotion, tell you this is where the great leader Kim Il-sung organized the anti-Japanese guerrilla army. They point to a simple rustic cabin and tell you that here, amidst the snow and the fighting, the dear leader Kim Jong-il was born. They tell you that on the day of his birth, a new star appeared in the heavens and a double rainbow arched over the mountain, as if the universe itself was bowing down. It is a nativity scene for the modern age, a political Christmas story woven into the fabric of the forest. The cabins are suspiciously pristine, the wood varnished and clean, lacking the grit of a real guerrilla war. Inside you see preserved artifacts, a simple blanket, a metal pot, a pistol. They are treated like holy relics. Then you see the trees, the slogan trees. These are ancient pines where, the guides claim, the revolutionary fighters carved messages of loyalty and hope during the dark days of the war. Long live the general, the star of Pektu shines. The slogans are carved into the bark, but you can't touch them. They are encased in thick, bulletproof glass boxes, sealed against the elements and the rot of time. Soldiers stand guard over the trees. It is a surreal image, a forest where the trees are in cages, preserving the words of the dead for eternity. You realize that here, history is not something that happened. It is something that is maintained, polished, and protected under glass. The factory of dreams, Chollywood. We leave the wild, windswept borderlands and journey back toward the capital, descending from the spiritual heights to the constructed reality of the plains. Before we leave the country, we have to stop at a place that blurs the line between the fake and the real, even more than the rest of the nation. We are going to the Pyongyang Film Studios. The locals call it Chollywood. It sits on the outskirts of Pyongyang, a sprawling complex that covers an area the size of 150 soccer fields. As you walk through the gates, the grey conformity of North Korean architecture vanishes, replaced by a jarring collage of time periods and geographies. This is where the regime manufactures its dreams and its nightmares. You step onto a street that looks like 1930s Manchuria. The signs are in old Chinese characters. There are opium dens with faded curtains, noodle shops with plastic bowls glued to the tables, and Japanese police stations. This is the set for the anti-Japanese revolutionary struggle films, a genre that is endless and repetitive. The attention to detail is obsessive, yet hollow. Turn a corner, and you are in ancient Korea. You walk past royal palaces with sweeping tiled roofs and tea houses with intricate latticework. Then suddenly you are in a twisted version of Seoul. The South Korean street is designed to look chaotic, dirty, and corrupt, a physical manifestation of how the North wants its people to see their neighbors. There are sleazy bars and American military jeeps parked on the corners, props for movies about the evils of capitalism. There is even a European section. It features generic Western churches with spires, stone bridges, and houses that look vaguely German or French. These are used for films set in the West or in Russia, where the actors wear bad wigs and prosthetic noses to play the foreign villains. The complex is vast, but it is a ghost town. Unless a movie is being filmed, the streets are empty. The silence is heavy. You walk up to a building that looks like a sturdy brick bank, knock on the wall, and hear the hollow thud of plywood. You open a door and find nothing but weeds, dusty wooden struts, and the rusted skeleton of the set. It is a facade in the purest sense. You can pay a few euros to dress up. There is a wardrobe department where you can put on the silk robes of a majestic king, the humble tunic of a farmer, or the uniform of a revolutionary soldier. You see tourists laughing, posing for photos in these costumes, standing on the fake streets of a fake city, inside a country that often feels like a simulation. The irony is suffocating. Kim Jong-il, the late leader, was obsessed with cinema. He owned over 20,000 films, including James Bond movies and Hollywood slashers. He wrote a treatise called On the Art of the Cinema. He famously kidnapped a South Korean director and an actress to force them to make movies for him. Seeking to upgrade the quality of the nation's propaganda, he came here hundreds of times, standing on these very streets, directing the directors, micromanaging the scripts. He understood that if you control the screen, you control the dream. Walking through these empty sets, you feel the weight of that philosophy. The whole country operates on a script. The people you meet, the guides, the carefully planned itinerary, it is all a form of cinema. Here, on the movie lot, the artifice is just more honest about its fakeness. The line between the acting and the reality dissolves completely. Is the waitress in the hotel restaurant any less of an actor than the woman playing a partisan on this set? They both have lines to memorize, roles to play, and a director watching from the shadows. Not far from the studio fantasy is a different kind of performance, the performance of luxury. We drive to the Pyongyang Golf Course, a place that feels like a glitch in the system. It sits on the banks of Taesong Lake, a secluded, verdant oasis. The grass is an impossible shade of green, manicured to a level of perfection that borders on insanity. You see groups of women crouching on the fairways, not with lawn mowers, but with small hand scissors and tweezers. They are trimming the grass blade by blade, pulling weeds by hand. It is a stark reminder of the value of labor here. Human time is cheap, fuel and machinery are expensive, the course is serene, beautiful, and completely dead. There are almost no players. A ticket to play here costs a fortune, accessible only to the highest tier of the party elite or the trickle of foreign tourists. It is a status symbol kept on life support, a green jewel meant to prove that North Korea can be civilized and leisurely. The guides will tell you the legend, and they will tell it with a straight face. They say that when Kim Jong-il played here for the very first time, he didn't just play well. He shot a 38 under par round. They claim he made 11 holes in one in a single game. In any other country, this would be a joke, a tall tale told over beers. Here, it is part of the hagiography. It reinforces the idea that the leaders are not men. They are polymaths, geniuses, superhumans who master everything they touch instantly. You nod, because to laugh would be an insult. and you watch the wind ripple across the empty, manicured greens where a god supposedly walked. From the silent golf course, we move to the crack of gunfire. The Meari shooting range is a strange hybrid of a family entertainment center and a military training ground. It is a leisure spot, a place where families come on the weekend to relax. But the relaxation involves handling Glock pistols, AK-47 assault rifles, and high-powered hunting bows. The facility is modern, echoing the sterile aesthetic of the rest of the city. You walk into the shooting bays, put on ear defenders, and pay for your bullets. There is something unsettling about the atmosphere. In most countries, a shooting range is for sport. Here, in a society that describes itself as a military-first nation, the line between sport and preparation is non-existent. You aren't just shooting at bullseyes. Some of the targets are shaped like soldiers with jagged, aggressive features, implied Americans or Japanese invaders. You can shoot crossbows at targets in the shape of pheasants or chickens, the thwack of the bolt satisfying and primitive. The sound of gunfire cracks through the air, pop, pop, pop. A leisurely echo of the constant military readiness that permeates the society. Fathers teach their sons how to hold a rifle. It is normalized violence packaged as fun, a Sunday afternoon activity in a garrison state. Finally, we head back to the heart of Pyongyang for the ultimate symbol of the regime's ambition and its profound hollowness. You have seen it from everywhere in the city, a dark triangle cutting into the sky. Now we stand at its base, the Ryugyong Hotel. It is a monstrosity of concrete and glass, a 105-story pyramid that towers over everything else in the capital like a futuristic spaceship that crash-landed in the 1980s. It pierces the sky, aggressive and solitary. They started building this beast way back in 1987. It was supposed to be the tallest hotel in the world, a defiant middle finger to the West and to South Korea. A symbol of North Korean power during the height of the Cold War. But history had other plans. The Soviet Union collapsed, the subsidies stopped, the economy imploded. For years, decades actually, construction halted completely. The crane rusted on the top, the concrete turned grey and stained. It sat there, a gaping, unfinished ruin dominating the skyline. It was visible from every corner of the city. A constant, humiliating reminder of economic failure. Foreigners called it the Hotel of Doom. The government was so embarrassed by it that they airbrushed it out of official photos and pretended it didn't exist, even though it cast a shadow over the entire city. Then, in a sudden flurry of activity starting around 2008, an Egyptian telecom company was brought in to glaze the exterior. They covered the rotting concrete skeleton with panels of sleek blue glass. Now it glitters in the sun. It looks modern, sharp, and impenetrable. At night, the transformation is even more complete. They installed millions of LED lights on the facade. The entire building turns into a massive digital billboard. It lights up with propaganda cartoons, waving North Korean flags, and slogans that run up and down the sides of the pyramid like a digital waterfall. It creates a spectacular light show that pulsates through the dark, power-starved night of Pyongyang. But looking at it gives you a cold feeling in your gut. You know the secret, the inside is still unfinished. It is mostly empty. There are no guests checking in at a lobby. There are no elevators humming to the top floor restaurant. There is no furniture, no plumbing, no life. It is a glittering shell that hides a lot of silence. It is the perfect metaphor for the entire trip. From the outside, it is impressive, massive, defiant, and projects an image of strength and modernity. But inside, it is hollow, a concrete void waiting for a future that refuses to arrive. It is a Potemkin pyramid, a monument to the appearance of success over the reality of it. You stare up at the tip of the spire, lost in the clouds. And wonder how long a building can stand without a heart. The journey ends not with a bang, but with the rattle of steel wheels on old tracks. We are at the Pyongyang train station, a cavernous hall filled with the smell of coal smoke and cheap tobacco. The loudspeakers play patriotic marching music, a final soundtrack to your departure. You board the international train bound for Beijing. The carriage is old, the upholstery worn. As the train lurches forward, Pyongyang begins to slide away. You watch the pastel-colored apartment blocks, the traffic ladies in their crisp uniforms, and the giant bronze statues recede into the distance. The city gives way to the countryside, endless fields of rice and corn, ox carts plodding along mud roads. Soldiers riding bicycles with rifles slung over their backs. Hours pass. The landscape becomes monotonous, a blur of green and gray, and then you see the river, the Yalu River, the border. The train slows down as it approaches the Friendship Bridge. You look out the window one last time. On the North Korean bank, the landscape is dark, dusty, and quiet. Soldiers in olive green watch the train go, their faces impassive, guarding the edge of their world. There is a rusted Ferris wheel standing still in the distance. A final symbol of arrested time. The train rattles over the iron bridge. The sound changes as you cross the water, a rhythmic clacking that sounds like a countdown. You cross the invisible line in the middle of the river. Suddenly, the view on the other side explodes into color. Dandong China, neon lights, skyscrapers, cars jamming the highways, advertisements for smartphones and fashion brands. The noise of the free market seems to penetrate the glass. You feel a physical wave of relief wash over you. The tension leaves your shoulders, the tension you didn't even realize you were carrying. The knot in your stomach from being constantly watched, of worrying about bowing correctly, of fearing you might say the wrong word and cause an incident. It all dissolves. You can breathe again, you can speak freely, but as the relief settles, another feeling takes its place. You feel thoughtful, almost melancholic. You look back at the dark bank of the river, now fading into the twilight. North Korea changes how you see things. It forces you to question what is real and what is a story. In your own world, truth is messy, debated, and complex. Here, truth was simple because it was manufactured. Every country has its own story, its own myths, but here, the story is the only reality allowed. The mountains, the buildings, and the people are all characters in a script written by one family, directed by a ghost.